Bonjour mesdames et messieurs et bienvenue dans mon premier épisode sur la grammaire des verbes français. Hello everyone and welcome to my first episode on the grammar of French verbs. In this episode and all of my episodes on tenses, I will present the form and function of the tense. When I say form, I'm really talking about the conjugation. Conjugation in French involves changing the form of the verb to reflect the person, thereby making it agree with the subject, and giving it a tense, thereby limiting its temporal scope or the time it refers to. Some conjugations will also reflect aspect, the state of completion of the action the verb is expressing, and others will reflect the mood, which indicates the speaker's attitude towards what they're saying. One conjugation will also reflect voice, that being the passive voice, as opposed to all of the others, which are in the active voice. When I mention function, I mean the context in which a particular tense is used. These will differ between French and English, though there are some commonalities. So let's look at the conjugation of the present tense in French for each of the subject pronouns we saw in Series 1, Episode 7. When we look at verb up in the dictionary, it will show the verb's infinitive. I will go through infinitives in one of my later videos in this series. Infinitives can vary a bit in French, but the most common French verbs will have an infinitive that ends in the letters ER. We imaginatively call these verbs ER verbs. To form the present tense of ER verbs, we first remove the ER. This gives us the present stem. For example, I remove the ER from the verb regarder to make regard. And then we add the ending that corresponds to the subject pronoun we want to use. For je, the ending is an E, making je regarde, I watch. For tu, the ending is ES, making tu regardes, you watch. For il, elle, or on, the ending is E, making it il, elle, or on regarde, he, she, or one watches. This is exactly the same as the first person singular. For nous, the ending is ONS, making nous regardons, we watch. And for vous, the ending is EZ, making vous regardez, you watch. For il or elle in the plural, the ending is ENT, making il ou elle regarde, they watch. And that is all there is to conjugating the present tense of ER verbs. Something you may have noticed is that although there are different spellings, the pronunciation for the conjugations for je, tu, il, elle, on, and il and elle plural is the same. The only two that are pronounced differently are the nous and vous forms. So let's now look at the uses of the present tense in French. The first use of the present tense in French is to make general statements of truth. For example, je fais des vidéos, I make videos. The second use of the present is to recount an event that is occurring at the time of speaking. For instance, je fais une vidéo en ce moment. I'm making a video at the moment. Astute viewers will notice the first difference between the French present and the English present here. In English, we have a tense called the present progressive, which is formed with the verb to be and the present participle of the primary verb. French doesn't have a present progressive. This means that when translating from French to English, we need to be careful to choose the correct conjugation, as a statement such as je fais des vidéos could mean I make videos or I am making videos, depending on the context. The third use of the present tense is to recount habitual actions. For example, je mange tous les jours, I eat every day. The fourth use of the present is to recount an event that began in the past but continues to the time of speaking. For example, il pleut depuis 2 jours, it has been raining for 2 days. This is the second use that differs to English. You'll notice that in English we are using a different tense again here, one called the present perfect progressive. The present tense's fifth use is to give descriptions of how things are currently. For example, il a les yeux bleus, he has blue eyes. The present tense can also be used to announce actions occurring in the future when a time is specified. For example, je pars pour la France ce vendredi. I'm leaving for France this Friday. This is another use where the present progressive is used in English. Lastly, the present tense is used to form hypotheses on the future. For example, s'il fait froid demain, je porterai un manteau. If it's cold tomorrow, I'll wear a coat. I will go over hypotheses in a later episode. There are some subgroups of ER verbs that require a little attention when conjugating. When conjugating verbs whose infinitives end in CER, such as lancer, the new conjugation requires the addition of a cedilla to the C. For example, nous lançons. This is because there are hard vowels and soft vowels in French, the hard vowels being A, O, and U, and the soft vowels being I and E. When C is followed by a hard vowel, it is pronounced as K. But when it's followed by a soft vowel, it's pronounced as S. So when conjugating a verb that ends in CER, we want to keep the soft S pronunciation, even though the new form ends in ONS. The cedilla tells us to pronounce the C as a soft S sound, even though the vowel that follows is a hard vowel. When conjugating GER verbs, such as manger, a similar phenomenon occurs. G can also be hard or soft, but there is no accent that we can add to a G to indicate a soft pronunciation when it's followed by a hard vowel. So for this, we add the letter E to our nous form. Instead of ONS, we use EONS. For example, nous mangeons. For verbs that end in YER, there is a different spelling change. In all of the single syllable conjugations, the Y is replaced by an I. In the two syllable conjugations, the Y is kept. For example, je paie, but nous payons. This is because the Y gives us that guttural sound that we only say when there is a second syllable. For verbs ending in ESER, EDER, ETER, EGER, and some ending in ELER, the single syllable conjugations add an accent grave to the final E before adding the ending. For example, je pèse, but nous pesons. For verbs ending in ELER that don't follow the pattern above, the final L is doubled in single syllable conjugations. One example of this is je m'appelle, but nous nous appelons. Notice that these spelling changes reflect the pronunciation of the words. And that concludes my episode on the present tense conjugation of ER verbs. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, please post a comment and I'll do my best to respond.